Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV on PlayFrame and another bonus video thing. So I know for a fact we have quite a few people watching this story playthrough who do not play 14 and have no intention to, and that is okay. And it is for those folks that I have made several supplemental videos sort of explaining some of the game's other features that we're not really going to be interacting with, as well as some basics of how the game works and how combat goes, and just some stuff to make it a little bit easier to parse what's happening on screen as we go through various fights and battles and things. This is going to be another video like that, and there's going to be several of them, because jobs are one of the most important aspects of Final Fantasy XIV. Like the job you pick will determine the weapon you use, it'll determine the fashion available to you, it'll determine your whole playstyle and flavor, and there's a lot that's important about it. And you'll probably recall that numerous times I've rattled off the jobs that a bunch of my party members are just randomly, and that probably meant not a whole lot to you, but that's going to change starting now, because I'm going to give a very quick 101 crash course rundown of what the jobs in this game are and what they're kind of very loosely about, just so you have a very basic idea. And today we will start by just talking about the jobs which you can start playing here in Limsa Lominsa. Just these starting 4 here to keep things nice and simple. Now, I should stress right up front, this is not a gameplay guide at all. I am not qualified to teach anybody how to play these jobs well, and I'm not even going to cover everything. This is just, again, a quick 101 level, a taster of various combat classes you can play in Final Fantasy XIV and what makes them all unique. And I should also mention up front, there's no wrong choice when it comes to picking a job. All of them are viable, all of them are fun in their own way, and you can easily dabble in as many or as few as you want on one character. That's what makes this game great. It really just comes down to what playstyle and visual look appeals to you most. So let's go ahead and start with our first one. This is the Warrior, a class you are probably fairly familiar with at this point if you've been watching this playthrough. The Warrior uses a two-handed great axe for their weapon, and it's very big. You can start this job by joining the Marauders Guild here, and upgrading to a Warrior later once you reach level 30. Now, I hear some of you asking, why don't they let you just start as a level 1 Warrior? Why do you have to be a Marauder first? Great question. Well, this whole start as one job and then specialize into another one later thing is sort of an artifact from the 1.0 version of the game that they just never completely phased out with the original Realm Reborn classes. These days, all it really adds is just some narrative flavor. Now, the Warrior is a tank, one of the 4 tank jobs in the game, and this particular flavor of tank is all about aggression. You've got a literal rage meter down here that your attacks slowly fill, and you can spend that resource to get mad and hit things harder. You have some very high damage attacks and the ability to occasionally guarantee critical hits with them. You've also got some great self-healing abilities, allowing you to soak incoming damage non-stop and just keep smashing. You're basically a berserker. Let's go over some of their abilities so you can get some of that flavor in. Like many of the melee jobs, the Warrior has a pretty standard 3-hit combo. A 1, a 2, and a 3. Which not only does some damage, but also builds this rage meter up a little bit, and one of these 3 attacks actually heals you a little bit too. You've got a move called Inner Release, which not only clears all the negative status effects on you, or most of them, I think, but it lets you use 3 big rage attacks at pretty much 0 cost and guarantees that they're going to crit. Thrill of Battle increases your max HP, heals you, and makes healing abilities used on you even more effective for a little while. Raw Intuition not only reduces the damage you take for a bit, but also heals you every time you use certain attacks. This one's fun. Shake It Off creates a barrier around you and others that absorbs incoming damage and heals everybody. And if things are going very sideways and it looks like you're possibly maybe about to die, you can always use Holmgang, which makes it nearly impossible to kill you for 10 whole seconds, which, when you're about to die and your healers are panicking, 10 seconds is a long time. Basically, if you like the idea of tanking by hulking out and hitting things very hard, or if you enjoy the idea of just constantly refilling your own health bar and shrugging off attacks and being just real hard to kill in general, or if you just want to see your character swinging a big axe around all the time, a Warrior's probably a job worth looking into. But let's move on to the next job, which is... This is the Scholar. This job wields a book as a weapon. And you will start this job by joining the Arcanists Guild, and then you'll be able to upgrade to a Scholar once you reach level 30. Now, the Scholar is what is known as a barrier healer. This healer's specialty is all about planning ahead. Where some other healing jobs, like the White Mage, specialize in healing more reactively, like hastily refilling any health bars that are starting to look a bit empty, the Scholar is all about preemptively stopping the hurt before it happens, applying shields to party members to soak the majority of the incoming damage. And to help you with that, you have a little healing assistant in the form of this summonable fairy, who will follow you around and constantly heal your party for you, which is quite nice. They probably won't be able to do the entire job all by themselves. You'll probably still want to get in there with some heals of your own, especially as you get a little later in level, but they are a very helpful assistant, and they give you some more time to focus on applying shields and doing some damage of your own. Because in this game, again, healers are still meant to be damage dealers. Whenever you find a spare moment, you should be throwing angry spells and making the boss die faster. If it helps, think of it as providing your party members with preventative care. Also, you have the ability to give your fairy movement orders, positioning them strategically around the battlefield or calling them back to your side when desired. For example, I could place Celine over there, and there she goes. And now she will heal anybody who happens to be in my party in sort of like the radius around her current position. And I can say heal to like come back toward me and follow me around. Also, you've got 2 flavors of fairy to pick between, so if this particular color palette doesn't work for you, you could go with Eos instead. They work exactly the same. It's entirely cosmetic. Now let's go over some of the abilities, and I think we might need to call in PlayFrame to act as assistant for this, since a lot of these spells are about healing and such. So, let's see. You've got some basic damaging spells that you can be throwing out against your enemies, and you should be throwing those out from time to time, as often as you can, really, whenever somebody doesn't need healing. But the majority of your kit is dedicated to healing and support. For instance, you've got, and let's target PlayFrame here, you've got Adloquium, which heals somebody and applies a shield to soak future damage. So you'll see not only, I mean, if PlayFrame was lower health, this would help refill that bar, but you might also see a little yellow, yep, there it is, a yellow bar pops up as well. That is a shield which is going to soak some damage that will not be applied to their HP for a bit. And isn't that nice? You've also got Resurrection, which I can't really show off very well because no one's dead, but when a party member goes down and dies, they'll be very happy that you know this spell. It takes a long time to cast, so you don't want to have to use it, but if you need to, it's there. It's also very expensive in terms of MP. Again, you don't want to have to be throwing this out a lot. You've also got some spells which are basically giving commands to your fairy friend, like Whispering Dawn, which gradually restores health for the entire party. Thank you. Or hey, here's a fun one. Once you got some of these little lit up gems to spend, you could spend one of them on Excogitation, which applies this preemptive in case of emergency heal to somebody, in this case, myself. So if my health ever drops below 50%, boom, instant heal spell. Alternatively, you could use Sacred Soil, which creates this big heal bubble wherever you choose. Anybody standing inside the bubble is going to regenerate health and take less damage for as long as the bubble lasts, and as long as they stay inside the bubble. And it's guaranteed as soon as you cast this, everyone's going to go somewhere else, but that's okay. That's just how being a healer works. And if, despite their best efforts, your fairy friend's healing is just not doing quite enough for you, you can summon Seraph instead to call out a Big Fairy for even more powerful heals for a little while. Basically, if you want to play a healer with a slightly steeper learning curve that feels very satisfying to master, or if you want to feel like a genius for seeing a real big hit coming and basically healing the damage before it even happens, or if you just want to have a little fairy friend around all the time, look into the Scholar. But let's now look into the next job, which is... This is the Summoner. This job also uses a book for their weapon, and this one has seen some pretty extensive changes with the release of the Endwalker expansion. People seem to be pretty into it, though. You will start this job by joining the Arcanists Guild, and then you'll be able to upgrade to a Summoner once you reach level 30. But wait, I hear some of you asking, aren't the book, weapon, and Arcanist Guild thing the Scholar's whole deal? And yes, you're correct. Very observant. They are. The Arcanist is the one weirdo starting class that eventually splits into 2 jobs, the Healing Scholar and the Damage-Dealing Summoner. Why is it like that? Probably because 1.0 again. It doesn't matter. It does mean that you can effectively level 2 jobs at once, though, since both Scholar and Summoner are built on the same base class, so that's nice. The Summoner is a ranged magical damage dealer. Like the Scholar, you do your thing by casting spells, only you're trying to kill enemies instead of keep your party alive. And you do that with help from magical pets, like Carbuncle here. Magical, glowy little pets. They're great. They are your best friends. Also, like the Scholar, you can control your summoned pets. You can tell them to go places. Here, Carbuncle, go over there for a bit. Thank you. Okay, I changed my mind. Come back. Also, and this is a fun one, you are one of the only damage-dealing classes who can revive fallen party members. You also have a resurrection spell, and isn't that nice? Normally, this would be the healer's job, but what if the healer's the one who went and died? Well, then the whole party's gonna think they're lucky stars they have you. But your primary responsibility is going to be putting out big damage numbers and looking very flashy indeed while you do it. To start with, you've got some basic damaging spells like Ruin here, and that's all fine and good, does some damage and all that, but the real fun starts once you begin summoning in a rotation of colorful friends, because not only are they going to dish out damage themselves, but calling them in also modifies some of your own spells. Observe, let's start by summoning Bahamut, a pretty strong opening statement, I'm sure you will agree. Bahamut not only powers up our existing Ruin spell, but you got new stuff like Death Flare, which is absurd, or Akmorn. All kind of bonkers. That's all great fun. But the other thing that Bahamut did before leaving was gift us with a few glowing gems over here, which is going to enable us to summon more friends. Let's start with Ifrit. Calling in Ifrit will do some damage and also give us a few charges of this fancy spell to do here, which does even more damage than our basic Ruin spell. And that's fun. And once we run out of those charges, that's fine. Let's spend the other gem, Summon in Titan. This spell changes again. Now we can start casting Titan-flavored spells. And once we run out of those charges, well, we still got the green gem. Let's bring in Garuda for a bit. A miniature Garuda. They're all miniature versions, obviously, but still. These are all some very strong and fun, flashy spells. And once we run out of all those charges, what do we do next? Well, that's when we summon in Phoenix. Keep them coming, I say. Which gives us a new version of Ruin, and Rekindle, which does a bunch of healing, as well as Revelation. I don't even know what this does, but I'm guessing it's going to be flashy. Yep. Basically, if you enjoy the idea of playing a very flashy-looking mage class, or if you want to play a relatively straightforward mage class that can get a lot done while only having to worry about a small number of buttons at once, and trust me, that is not true of every job in this game, or if you just want to have all those big, scary primals working as pets for you, the Summoner is probably a job you should look into. But we got one more job to talk about today. Let's talk about... this here is the Ninja. Ninjas use daggers for their weapons, and this job was actually added to the game in a patch after A Realm Reborn was launched. Unlike the others that I've discussed in this video, you cannot start the game as a ninja. But once you have gotten any of the other jobs in the game to level 10, you will then be able to unlock this job by joining the Rogues Guild, upgrading to Ninja at level 30. And fun fact, the Rogues Guild, they like to keep things kind of hush-hush, so their guild location in Limsa is very inconspicuous. It's pretty great. This guy just checks you at the door. You looking to head inside? Well, yes, I can do that because I'm a rogue, but normally he'll be all hush-hush about it. The Ninja is a melee DPS class. This damage dealer is all about speed and tactical flexibility and thinking very fast. And for a lot of people, myself included, this is one of the trickiest jobs to get the hang of because a lot of your key abilities are executed using Ninja's very unusual combo system. You see these three skills here? We got Ten, Chi, and Jin. These three are called Mudra skills, and by themselves, they don't do anything. They're just a bunch of hand gestures. Also, we got this ninjutsu skill. By itself, doesn't do anything, but if you hit a combination of these three Mudra skills and then hit ninjutsu, let's just say these three in a row, boom, that will execute one of many fancy skills depending on how many of the Mudras you queued up and in what order. It's a very cool and somewhat complex system, and the downside is that if you accidentally enter an invalid combination of these Mudra, or if you just use one too many times, or if you even execute just a different non-ninjutsu skill in the middle before hitting execute, then hitting ninjutsu will make this happen. The ninja spell will completely fail, instead summoning a bunny on your head, just to make sure that everybody else in the party knows that you have embarrassed yourself. But if you can wrap your head around that Mudra system, then Ninja's a pretty great time. You got this little 3-hit combo here, which is not only quite flashy and does damage, but also fills up this little Ninki gauge you can see down here. And you can spend this resource on several big attacks, the most fun of which is Bunshin. So let's fill that up a little bit more. Okay. Now we can use Bunshin, which is very fun because it creates a shadow version of you who gets in a bonus hit for your next 5 weapon attacks. Look at little Shadow Durmin. Also, you've got Shukuchi, which lets you bamf around places, and that's quite fun. And finally, you've got Hide, which allows you to become invisible. It has very limited applications in Final Fantasy XIV. There's not actually a whole lot you can do with this practically in-game, but hey, nobody else can do it. And the one thing that you can do, which is pretty fun, limited applications again, but still pretty fun, is Trick Attack, which is a special backstab you can only do while hidden. And it does do a lot of damage, and also increases the damage that everybody else does to this enemy for the next 15 seconds. And that ain't bad. Basically, if you want to play a melee job that is agile and fast-paced and can also do front flips, nobody else does that, or if you want to master a job that really does have a learning curve and eventually feel like a galaxy brain who can actually remember how and when to use all the right ninjutsu combinations in the chaos of a boss fight, or if you just want to run around like a Naruto, which only the ninja will do, then this might be a job that you should look into. Just expect to have a bunny on your head now and then, because there's no way that's not happening. Of course, there is so much more to all of these jobs than what I've explained here. I'm sure some smarter people down in comments can probably fill you in on more details, but hopefully this gives you at least a very basic idea of what these 4 jobs are generally about. And next time, we'll talk about a few more. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the little bonus video here. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow for some more story. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.